Hi, this is David, the ultimate horror movie fan, reviewing Friday the 13th. This box set, I'm reviewing them one by one. Today I'm going to review Friday the 13th Part 2. That was the sequel that was a year after the original movie. It is starring Amy Steele, John Furey, Kirsten Baker, and Steve Daskawisz, who's Jason Voorhees in this movie, the first Jason Voorhees, and Warrington Gillette, who is Jason, but he's Jason without the mask. Some interesting facts about the film. Um, the idea for Jason being the killer wasn't really a plan in the first one, in the sequels. Um, Director Sean Cunningham actually just came up with the idea out of a whim. The idea that Jason was going to just come out of the water in part one and scare you all half to death was just a kind of an idea just to get a scare out of the audience. He had no plans to use Jason Voorhees as the main killer in parts 2 on. So when there was an idea to obviously do Friday the 13th Part 2 because of the success of the first movie, he declined to return, and so did makeup effects guru and artist Tom Savini. So basically they turned over the movie to Steve Miner, who directed, and Victor Miller, who was the makeup special effects artist. So Jason basically comes back from the dead, you could say, for the first time as an adult. The only previous time we've seen him was in part 1, which was he was a child, and he leaps out of the water, scares the crap out of everybody, and that's basically all we see, besides just hearing the legend of Jason Voorhees. Anyways, this basically movie is held a few years after part 1. You know, they return to camp, warned not to go into the woods. They're kind of in a nearby camp near Crystal Lake, on Crystal Lake, but near the Crystal Lake campgrounds where the murders happened. And basically, Paul Hoyt tells the legend of Jason in the beginning of the movie. There's a legend around here. He starts out and he starts telling basically the group about Jason's body never being recovered after he drowned, and about his mom's beheading, and Jason's supposedly seeking his revenge after seeing his mom's beheading. And then of course, he tricks them. Somebody jumps out with a mask and a spear, and he scares him, and he basically says Jason's a legend, and that's all he is, and just don't enter the other campgrounds out of respect, and just drop it from here. That's all I want to hear about it. And of course they have no idea that Jason is alive, and he's lurking around in the woods somewhere. And it starts out where they kind of separate. The group separates for the night. A few of them go to a local bar. The rest of them stay behind. And of course, you all know, you stay behind, you die. So Jason starts killing them off one by one. And the special effects did not take a dive after Savini left. Actually, they were pretty good kills. Pretty good kills, pretty good scenes where the murders look really cool, pretty realistic, and downright, makes you turn your head, but at the same time, Even Mr. Savini would have been proud. So my view of the movie is, I think this is, like everybody thinks, is perhaps the most underrated version, one in the series. The reason why is because obviously part one was so good, because of you know, the movie originally wasn't supposed to do that well. I mean, for God's sake, Betsy Palmer herself didn't think it was going to be a really blockbuster, huge movie, and then now, you know, then up till now, she's considered, you know, Mrs. Voorhees because of the movie. So, you know, it became a cultural phenomenon, a hit, even though it wasn't made for that much money. And of course, the third one was best known for being the 3D movie that featured Jason's mask. So in this one, Jason Voorhees does not have his mask yet, and he's basically wearing a potato sack over his head with one eye cut out. So basically, it's kind of underrated because, you know, people expect Jason to have the mask, but a lot of people forget that Jason doesn't get his mask till 3, and of course, a lot of people forget that Jason wasn't in part 1. But it still is, like I said, it's still between 1 and 3. As far as, you know, it's between 1 and 3, obviously, but it's underrated because of that. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't get a lot of it doesn't give a lot of, I think, a lot of credit to the series. But this was the first Jason Voorhees. I mean, this was the first guy to play Jason. So, the actor Steve Daskawisz, who played him in Warrington, Gillette, you know, at the end, I mean, that's a pretty tough job. I mean, you're basically setting the bar, you know. I mean, obviously, others like Kane Hodder, you know, made Jason the way he's supposed to be, the walk, the intimidating look, everything. But, you know, you got guys in between that did a pretty good job playing him. But this was the first guy to play Jason. This was the start, and to be the first 2 people to play him was a pretty big deal, because I mean, up to the point, you had no reference to how you were going to make this character. You had Jason basically faceless, you know. You didn't see him throughout the movie that much. I mean, you've seen him, but obviously Jason would pop up and kill, kind of setting the bar up to his, you know, to his murder spree. And it became kind of a mold of what the others would build off of. So, you know, I love this movie. I thought Amy Steele, who played Ginny, did a pretty darn good job, considering that Adrienne King wasn't the feature in this film. As everybody knew, Adrienne King survived part 1, and she only makes a small appearance in part 2, and quickly is dispatched, which is kind of disappointing, because I actually wish that her character would have went on. I mean, she was a pretty strong character by the end of part 1. I mean, by the time she got through, you know, realizing everybody is murdered and all of her friends are murdered, and she faces the enemy, she becomes a pretty kick-butt character, you know. So, anyways, sorry about that. Anyways, my thought about this movie is very underrated and very good. To me personally, you know, I have a place in my heart for part 1 and part 3, because of, you know, part 1 being the beginning, the start of the franchise, and they did such a great job in part 3, because obviously everybody loves Jason getting his hockey mask. I mean, nobody knew after that this would be his trademark, you know, but it became this basic trademark of the series. But in this one, you know, he doesn't have his mask, but still, it's pretty good. You know, I mean, he does a very good job playing Jason. And at the end, Gillette, I mean, the makeup effects, when you see Jason without the burlap sack on his head, it's pretty freaking scary. I mean, he looked just horrible, you know. And, you know, it scared the crap out of me. So, my view about this movie, it's definitely a great movie. Not as good as Part 1, because Part 1 put the bar pretty high, but you know, out of the 10 plus movies, I would have it pretty high in the list. You know what I mean? I mean, Part 3 obviously is high, in my opinion. Maybe a, you know, a 2, and then this one either follows that or follows the first part of the Jarvis trilogy, which everybody calls it. You know, the 4 through 4 to 6 are the Jarvis characters. You know, Tommy Jarvis, excuse me, is in the movie, in the 3 of the movies. And those were pretty good movies, but the 4 was the best out of those. So it'd probably be it'd probably either be 3rd or 4th on the list as far as I considered favorites out of the entire trilogy. So that's my review. Hope you liked it. Sorry if the camera was shaking a little bit. Sorry if I got a little too close to the camera and everything was kind of chaotic over here. I have a cat, so that's my review, and I'll see you for Friday the 13th, Part 3, where he will get his hockey mask. So until then, guys, hope you liked my review. Keep watching.